What's the best method to stretch natural hair without losing length or risking damage? How long do the results of each of these things last before your hair starts to revert? Which is more practical for someone with a busy lifestyle? How long does each technique take? Today, we're putting together two very popular methods of stretching hair. One uses heat, the other relies on technique, and we're going to be breaking down these methods. Which of them is more cost effective? Which of them is more healthy for hair? Which of them saves the most time? One thing that people always try to do when it comes to natural hair is straighten their hair. And they do this in a variety of ways using a variety of techniques. Two of those techniques are African threading and blow drying. So you can either use thread. There are different threads you can use. African threading, by the name you can already tell, it originated from Africa, and it came about by using things to wrap around the hair to straighten the hair from the root to the end. So the popular things we use to thread our hair over here include rubber thread. There is also a specific thread that is used to thread the hair, not sewing thread. But then because of the lack of availability of the standard thread or rubber thread in other places, we started using other things such as yarn or wool, and even Brazilian wool, even braiding hair, and so on and so forth, to straighten the hair by threading. On the other hand, blow drying is using the blow drying device to straighten your hair, to stretch out your hair, and it relies on heat. It's just that in more recent times there have been blow dryers developed which also have the cool air feature which you can use to straighten your hair. Now, blow drying relies on heat. Heat is faster when it comes to blow drying. If you're using the cooler air of the blow dryer to blow dry your hair, you're going to be spending more time in the process, and the hair may not even be as stretched as if you use the hot air of the blow dryer. For either one of these methods, we're going to cover effectiveness, hair health, time and convenience, cost and accessibility, comfort and styling versatility, and the best cases to use either one of these methods. And right down to it, for effectiveness, we have which of these gets the hair straighter between blow drying and African threading. Now, if you have been privileged enough to test both of these methods on your natural hair, no matter the texture of your hair, if you've used either one of these methods, you will agree with me that they both straighten hair effectively. And I would say, depending on the tools you use to straighten your hair, so if you're going to be blow drying, there are certain blow dryers you use to straighten your hair that will give you such a good stretch that you would think you flat ironed your hair, or you would think you got a silk press. Yes, there are blow dryers as good as that. While for African threading, if you want to thread your hair, depending on the material you use to stretch your hair, if you use the thread that is meant for African threading, I'm going to insert it somewhere here, that thread stretches the hair so well, no matter how large your section is. Of course, when it comes to African threading, because we're not applying direct heat on the hair, the smaller your sections are, the better stretch you're going to get. If your sections are bigger, you will get better stretch if you leave the hair threaded for a longer time, like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so on and so forth. But if you want immediate stretch, you will have to cut your hair into smaller sections and then go ahead and thread your hair. African thread and then the rubber thread, those give very good stretches. While for blow drying, there are very specific blow dryers, especially the high-tech ones, which straighten your hair almost to the flat iron level. How long do the results of each of these things last before your hair starts to revert? If you just blow dry your hair without doing the flat ironing after or the silk press after, and most times, even when you do the silk press after, if it's not something you have done constantly over time, your hair may start to revert within the day, within the hour, or even a few minutes after you've blow dried. If you thread your hair, also the same thing. When you loosen the thread, I would even argue that the African threading may last longer, especially if you left your hair threaded for a longer period of time. So the hair may stay stretched for longer, just a little longer than when it's blow dry. Let me speak from my experience. When I blow dry my hair and when I thread my hair, they usually last about the same number of minutes before it reverts. Number of minutes because it doesn't even last up to an hour before my hair starts reverting. And so whatever it is I'm blow drying my hair for or I'm straightening my hair for, I have to hurry up and get it done before the hair starts to revert. It's just the realities of having my texture of hair, and it's something I absolutely do not mind, but you have to take note of that if you want to try either one of these techniques. Hair health. Does blow drying your hair cause damage over time? It depends on how high the heat that you use to blow dry your hair is. If you stay on medium heat or even low heat, you can get away with blow drying your hair frequently without experiencing damage. But if every time you want to blow dry your hair, you go in with very high heat, the highest heat of the blow dryer, and then you do multiple passes for each section of hair, and then you repeat this consistently or consecutively or just very frequently, your hair is going to get damaged over time, especially if you don't moisturize properly before you do the blow drying. Here in some African salons, unfortunately, when they want to blow dry the hair, they just do the wash, they condition, they may deep condition, but when it's time to blow dry, they don't apply any products to the hair. They just go in with a blow dryer and they start doing the thing without any product. So you just be smelling burnt hair and your hair may be straight, but if you repeat this frequently, you are going to experience damage, unfortunately. Can threading cause breakage or tension at the root? I should have said this before, but of course, either one of these two techniques, if you do them frequently, they have their pros, they have their cons, they have things you will experience, especially if you don't take care of your hair properly or prep your hair properly before you do either one of them. So you just have to note the one you would rather do frequently, and also when you do them maybe for the first time, observe how your hair and scalp responds so that you know how to make adjustments accordingly. For African threading, yes, it definitely causes breakage and tension at the root. African threading is one of the most effective techniques for straightening your hair. It's also one technique that applies so much pressure on the hair and scalp, because to get the hair very stretched, especially if your hair type is kinky or coily, all of the hair has to be grabbed from the scalp. And if you have threaded your hair with an African auntie before, you know they don't even play. They will grab all your hair at the scalp so that all of the hair can be stretched, so you don't have kinky hair at the root, and then the body of your hair is straightened. So yes, doing that over time does apply pressure and tension to the hair and scalp, and if you're not careful, your hair will start even uprooting from your scalp, which is something that you don't want. Your goal is to preserve your hair and to preserve your length. I would also say, as soon as you notice that something is happening which you don't like, either you're getting tender-headed from doing any of these techniques or your hair is breaking from doing any of these techniques, please discontinue and give your hair and scalp a break. Time and convenience. How long does each technique take? First things first, it depends on the length and the volume of your hair. So take that into consideration. If you have very full hair, which is also very long, doing anything on your hair may seem like you're going to spend a long time. But if your hair is thick but maybe short, or if your hair is maybe thinner and shorter, you know you're not going to spend so much time. So the length and volume of your hair should go into consideration when it comes to using any of these techniques. For the techniques themselves, I would argue that blow drying takes less time because you get it done immediately. The only time blow drying may take longer is if you are blow drying hair from wet to dry. And even then, it does not take as long as African threading. African threading requires you to prep your hair by washing and conditioning first. That's out of the way. Then you're going to cut your hair into sections. You're going to prepare the thread. You're going to thread each of the sections, and then you're going to have to wait up to 24 hours so that you get a better stretch. And yes, we wear it as a protective style here, meaning we thread our hair and then we leave it without doing anything. We just go about our businesses here with the threaded hairstyle. But if you're straightening your hair with African threading, that's if you're doing African threading with the goal of straightening your hair, you have to take into consideration that you're not going to get a very good stretch if you take down that thread less than 6 hours. Let me just say 6 hours, but for a very good stretch, you have to leave it in for 24 hours and above. Which is more practical for someone with a busy lifestyle? Definitely blow drying. I've already said for threading, you're going to spend quite a number of hours in 2 days. Blow drying, you get it done there and then you're on to the next thing. Cost and accessibility. Now, this is where there may be a bit of a challenge, because already for African threading, the only thing that saves a lot of us is that we now use other materials like yarn, like sewing thread to thread the hair. But if we had to use specifically African thread and rubber thread, we may not be able to access these things things in our different locations. These things are very easy to find in Africa because they are originated here, and a lot of these materials are made here for our people here. So it's very easy to find these things and use these things. If you are looking for the materials specifically for straightening the hair, the thread materials, if you're not in Africa, you may not really find them, but you can always opt for other things like Brazilian wool, like baby wool or yarn, that's the knitting yarn, or even sewing thread to get your hair threaded and straightened. For blow dryers are pretty popular, and wherever you are, you can get even the simplest blow dryer to get the job done. It's just that the blow dryers may be more expensive than threading materials. And here is where it gets interesting. If you're wondering whether you can do African threading in your house without going to the salon, that's without a salon visit, absolutely. If you already make your hair yourself, you can section your hair yourself, you can braid your hair yourself, single braid, single twist, cornrows, then it's the same thing. You'll just have to practice threading the sections, and then it's something that you can easily do. But if you don't do your hair by yourself, but you have someone at home, that person can help you thread your hair and get it straightened. But if you can do neither one of these things and you have nobody at home, then you will have to go to the salon to get your hair threaded so that it's done properly. Comfort and accessibility. I forgot to mention, for blow drying, in terms of special products that you are going to need to use to blow dry, yes, you will need a heat protectant, especially if you're going to be using high heat of the blow dryer to blow dry your hair. So note, for threading, you just need like a pomade or just a conditioning cream to apply to your hair. But for the blow drying process, you will need a heat protectant to shield your hair from all that excess heat and to make sure your hair does not become dry, brittle, and prone to breakage. Comfort and style versatility. If you are worried about comfort, this is the part you should pay attention to. Threading is effective, but it's not the most comfortable thing to sleep in. If you have done a perm rod set or you've done roller set that you had to wear overnight, then that's kind of the feeling that you get when you wear threading, especially when it's styled in a beautiful updo. The style is beautiful, but it's not so comfortable. Whereas when it comes to comfort and blow drying, you know you're already blow drying your hair to get one particular style done. And unless the style is an eccentric style that is not simple, then you are absolutely comfortable. You can get your hair blow dried and styled immediately after, and then you go about your day without worrying about how you will sleep at night. Does blow drying leave the hair more flexible for styling? Yes. Now, threading, I want to come back to this. Threading can be a painful process and can leave your scalp very tender afterwards, meaning you may not be able to thread your hair, take it down on the same day and style it on the same day. Your entire scalp will be so tender. I have tried it before. You will have to leave that hairstyle for 24 hours, 48 hours for it to loosen from your scalp. And even then, by the time you take down the style, you may not be able to do a serious hairstyle afterwards because your scalp may still be tender. But when it comes to blow drying is already almost easy on the scalp unless you're tender headed, so you'll be able to blow dry your hair and style it at the same time. And so yes, I would say that blow drying actually is more flexible if you need to style your hair immediately, so that's something you also want to take note of. Best use cases. This is equally important. You want to know which of these techniques is best to be applied immediately if you need to straighten your hair and style immediately. Blow drying. Blow drying. The only advantage that threading has over blow drying is that it doesn't require heat. So it does not require the pressure of heat. So if you can't even find a heat protectant, you can always opt for threading. But in terms of quick use to quickly style your hair, quickly straighten your hair for a style, it is blow drying. So all you have to do is make sure that you moisturize your hair properly. And if you have enough time on your hands, you can opt for using the low heat setting on your blow dryer if your blow dryer has a low heat setting. So this is going to ease the heat used on your scalp and also ease the tension and pressure on your hair and scalp, but also straighten your hair and have it ready for you to style immediately. So for my recommendations of these two techniques side by side, I would say if you want to quickly style your hair, if you need to quickly dash out, if you have a job that requires you to have your hair done in different styles frequently and the styles require your hair to be straightened, blow drying will be the option you should go for. But if you're looking for longevity, if you're looking for a protective style as well, and you don't mind recommend African threading. African threading is a very good style for you, and it's also a safer technique to use to straighten your hair while keeping your hair healthier for the longer term. If you are the one that has to pick between these two, which would you go for between blow drying and African threading? Which of them would you think would work best for your hair, for your lifestyle, for your location, for the products that you can find around you, for the materials you can find around you, and just for your general life and well-being? Comment that down below, and I'm sure you'll find people who can agree with you in the comments and watching this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.